All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our second part of our IBM Planning Analytics Lunch and Learn. We did the first part last week. If you missed that, definitely reach out to the eCapital team. We can get you a copy of that recording so that you can watch that. For those of you who don't know, I'm Brady Marr. I am the Planning Analytics Practice Lead at eCapital. I've actually been with eCapital for coming up on 10 years and working in the budgeting, forecasting, reporting space for about 20 years. We have a great session today. I think there's a lot of people pretty excited about some of the content here. So we're going to start off with a demo on Planning Analytics for Excel. We're going to move on to talk about integrating RPA with Planning Analytics. And finally, we'll be talking about some scenario planning. Before we get into that, we just wanted to share just a little bit about eCapital. We think we have some people on the line who may not know much about eCapital. So first off, we are an IBM Platinum Business Partner. We've actually been working with IBM since about 2000, back in the Adatum days. For those of you who don't know, Adatum was kind of the predecessor to Cognos Planning, and of course Cognos Planning got acquired by IBM, and since got replaced by TM1, which is now rebranded to Planning Analytics. So at eCapital, we absolutely value the partnership with our clients. This is not just about us being your consultants. This is about us being your partners, and that is the big driving force behind what we do. We have three main areas of expertise at eCapital. The piece that I sit in, that I work most of my time in, is of course in performance management, which includes budgeting, planning, line of business modeling, financial consolidation, financial reporting. We also have a very good analytics and data group, as well as an advisory services team. Of course, as I said, eCapital's been in business for somewhere around 20 years, and over those years we've worked with quite a few different companies. We actually have over 300 clients, and really those clients span across all sizes and all industries. Here's just a small sample of some of our clients. All right, I think that's enough about eCapital. Let's get on to the content. So the first topic here that we're going to be talking about is Planning Analytics for Excel, and we have a fantastic presenter today. Shayan is a senior consultant on my PA team. He joined eCapital about 3 years ago, and has a wealth of experience in those 3 years, working with quite a few different clients in different industries. And I think before we turn that over to Shayan, I think we actually have a poll question to ask about Planning Analytics for Excel. So I think, Ryan, that poll will probably pop up, but the question we want to ask everybody is what Excel add-in product are you currently using? Are you using Perspectives, Packs, both, or neither? If you don't mind, everybody could please answer that question, and then we'll turn it over to Shayan.
Thanks, Brady. So I think people can still answer the question while I talk for a little bit. But I just want to thank everyone for taking the time today. I know we have some current clients and some new potential clients on the line. So the goal for my little demo is just to show off some of the basic and key functionalities of Planning Analytics for Excel. There's obviously a lot more that can be done in the tool, but I'm hoping that this demo serves as a good way that you can see how you can start with your data from Planning Analytics and easily turn it into a digestible report for any type of user. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, I'm now the presenter. All right. Can everybody see a blank workbook in Excel? Should be able to.
Looks good, Dan. Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks. So when you get the Packs add-in added into your Excel, you'll be given a new Planning Analytics, IBM Planning Analytics ribbon. For those of you who've used perspectives in the past, which is the legacy tool. You'll use it as saying TM1. Same type of functionality, though we have a variety of different options here. And you're able to connect to any of your various TM1 servers and instances directly from this panel to the side. So I'm going to be using this SmartCo 4 server, which is just a demo server that we have. And when you connect, you'll notice that you have all of your cube data. And again, this is dependent on security that is available to you within the Planning Analytics model. So if a user, for example, only had access to the capital cube and the control cube, those are the only two items they'd see. Since I'm an admin on this server, I see everything. So the first key feature I wanted to highlight is the idea of explorations. So this is something typically a lot of users in the past have done in the web, whether in TM1 Web or actually in Architect, going in and doing the slicing and dicing of all the various dimensions within any Planning Analytics cubes. But with Planning Analytics for Excel, we can do all of this natively in Excel without ever having to leave this interface. So I'm going to use the Revenue Planning Cube as an example. And what we can see is we have a variety of different views already set up. You can create your own right off the bat, and I'll show how we're going to save one from one that we create so that we can access it again. So I'm just going to drag this default view, drop it into the rows and columns. And what you'll quickly see is that we have a live link directly back to a view of our data within that Revenue Planning Cube. I'm going to close this task pane for now. We can bring it back at any time if we wanted to see it again, but just close it for now. And so what you'll notice at the top is now we have our rows, our columns, and then we have our context up here. So this is very similar to a pivot table. So if I was to swap these around, you'll see that my rows and columns have easily switched. Same thing. It also gives the ability to nest dimensions as well. So if you wanted to take all your various customers, nest them over on the top, over by the revenue, you can simply bring it over here, bring them next to each other, and now we have it by our customers. So the real reason they call these explorations is for users to get a good look and maybe slice and dice to get a view of the data that they actually want to see to then turn into a digestible report. So for instance, this may not be exactly what we want to see in our groups. For example, we're looking at let's say we just want to look at our tests and treatments and specialty services. What we can do is simply go to our product dimension. We can edit the set. And what it will do is it'll bring up a subset editor, which has recently been updated within TM1, within Planning Analytics for Excel, and will let you select exactly what you want to bring over. So I just want to take tests and treatments all the way through here. I'm going to move those over, apply and close. I've already selected an alias, so you will see this list quickly change to only show those that I want updated. Similarly, if you don't want to go into the subsetter, if you just really quickly want to say, hey, I don't really need to see this value, you can right-click. You're given an IBM Planning Analytics option, and it'll allow you to simply remove that measure. Now, that's not the only thing you can do. In many cases, I've seen users like to add their own calculations to those that aren't necessarily already native within TM1. For example, we may want to be able to look at our cost of goods sold as a percentage of our revenue. So what we have the ability to do is actually insert calculations. So just to make this a little simpler, I'm going to move our gross revenue below our cost of goods sold. All that's going to do is flip these two around. And I'm simply going to highlight both these columns, right-click, go to IBM Planning Analytics, and you'll see that there's a new option here for Insert Calculation. And that can be very simple. So what we can do is just a simple addition, a product, a division, a subtraction. We can also do a percent change and a percent of. So for this case, I want to do the percent. How much do our cost of goods sold represent as a total of our revenue? So I'm going to click this percent. And what you'll see is I now have this new measure that does all those calculations for me. Now what's great about this is that now within this exploration, this is a manipulatable element. So when I bring in and nest other dimensions, if I was to change this organization, for example, let's change it to North America, not only would the data change, but my calc changes along with the data. I can also collapse and expand. You'll see the calculations flow similarly. So from this exploration view, you can see how a user can easily put together a look and feel of what they want to see. So I have a separate view that I already wanted to use that I will use as an example for how we're going to turn it to a report. But given that we've done some, very basic manipulation here already, and we've added in a new calculation, we've, swapped some products and things. While this was a very simple example, there may be others where a user has done quite a bit of slicing and dicing to get to a view that they really like, and they want to be able to access from any Planning Analytics interface easily. With the new version of Planning Analytics for Excel, you can save the view directly to the server. So what that means is I can hit Save to Server. I'm just going to create this. I'm going to say, hey, this is our Lunch and Learn test view. I'll call this 1. And you can save it as a private view. This MDX view means that one of the subsets is a dynamic subset, so that'll change as it gets updated over time. But for now, we're just going to save it as a dynamic view. This view, now if I get rid of this sheet, even though I've gotten rid of that, I can still re-access this view if I just open another exploration. I go back to my revenue planning cube, and in views, you will see that I have my L&L test view 1. And I can bring that out here, and it looks exactly the same as I had done before. This view is accessible in Architect, it's accessible in TM1 Web, it's accessible in PAW, and all you did was create and slice and dice here within Planning Analytics for Excel. So that was a little bit about explorations. There's definitely a lot more that you can do. I only showed some of what you can do. You can easily take these explorations and convert them into various different reports, which I'll show in a moment. You can also suppress zeros, swap your rows and columns, and even take all of the data, snapshot it to make the data static so it doesn't have a live connection to the database, as well as committing and committing new data directly to the server if you have the rights, of course, directly from here. So I have another test view that I'm going to use for our mock report. So one thing that I have my clients using this tool a lot for is to do variance analysis, scenario analysis based on the different versions and things that they have. So very similar to the view that we had before. The only difference you'll see is that I have version nested over with my measures on the top, with a plan forecast and then a current forecast versus plan. So what we can, once we have our exploration, the way that we want, we can convert this to any type of report. For about 95% of what my clients need, and especially when it comes to publishing it out to the web and really making it a clean formatted report, I use these dynamic reports. So I'm just going to go ahead and create one on a new sheet. Dynamic reports, if you used perspectives in the past, they're very similar to active forms. So it shouldn't be all too much different if you had used that tool in the past. So what you'll see is I have a slightly different look and feel, but a report nonetheless. And you'll see that there's a ton of new hidden rows. So what I'm going to do is hit the show format area, zoom out a little bit, and I will hide my grid line so it makes it a little bit clearer. But what you'll see is that rows 1 through 10 now have a format range. And this format range basically takes whatever you put in your rows and it puts a number or a tag for what level of the hierarchy that they're in. Since tests and treatments is at one of the highest levels within the hierarchy, it's given a 0. The next level below is given a 1. And then the lowest level, children, where there's nowhere else they can go, it's assigned the leaf tag. So any formatting that you set up here will automatically, when you rebuild the sheet, apply down here. And this is a really powerful tool that will really let you customize and create really polished reports in a short matter of time. So I'm going to show just a few things real quickly, and then I'll go into a more completed example and show some of the cool things that I did with that one. So just real quickly, this is just like Excel. If not really too many new things you need to learn to be able to use this tool effectively. I'm just going to go to my styles. I'm going to change these all to normal. For all of these numbers, I really want them to, have used parentheses as a negative, use the thousand separator, 2 decimal places is good for me. Let's go ahead and apply some very basic borders. And since our top level and our level 1 are going to be subtotals, we want to make these stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and make this bold. Make this top one black. See if the color should be white. That one should be black. And we'll make this one here a slightly different color, green. And then lastly, for the leaf level, make that italics, make this blue. So you see all I did was format this area. But what I'm going to do is hit recreate book. And now every corresponding tagged row to the corresponding column has this new format. And this format, it holds even if you collapse and drill back into any of these. So if you even change the context, if you were to change the company, which would lead to perhaps this shrinking to a degree, let's change to Eastern region. Numbers change, formatting stays. One of the big features that a lot of users like to use is when you have these sub-NM functions, which basically act like data validation dropdowns. So the cells within the report are DBRW formulas, and all they do is refer to the cube, and then it refers to every single dimension, so it knows the exact cell intersection to grab the data from. So as you can see here, it's looking to this organization cell to be able to find out what exactly the organization it should be pulling the data from, which is a dropdown that'll it's usable in the web and it's usable here in Excel, with the added functionality if you would like to double-click to open up the subset editor. This is just a tip and trick that I've learned over time as to make really a nice user interface, to make it really easy for users to tell what are the clickable buttons, where they should be using their dropdowns. Is I basically take any of my sub-NM functions, create the size of cell that I really want, but there's some very simple border shading that you can do to make it look like a button. So I simply just take the skinniest line, apply it to the top 2 here, take a thicker line, it can be either one, I usually take this one, apply here, and you can see this kind of looks like a more clickable button, and it will still give them that, drop down that they'll be able to choose from. And I just simply format paint this down to the others, and we're good to go. Another great thing about these dynamic reports is that you can insert an action button which will directly run any process on your planning analytics system. You can navigate to a new worksheet, you can run process and then go to a new worksheet, or simply calculate or rebuild the sheet. Just for our example, I'm going to add a button that simply rebuilds the sheet just to make it an easier call out for users. And this is all done via Excel formatting. So I'll just say refresh report. As you can see, it clicked to refresh the report. What I can do is control click here, make this blue, give it some other colors, the font. And now this is something that our users will have access to. One caveat with this is when you add these action buttons in, you do have to save the Excel document as a macro-enabled report. So again, this is just really quickly showing you some of the quick features that you can do with the dynamic reports. You are not beholden to only the measures that you see here. If you write your own DBRW formulas, you can add others, and even your own Excel formulas, you can add them here as well. And when you add a formula, it will cascade all the way down to the other rows. So you really only need to populate a row, a formula here to allow it to cascade down. Just for a very simple example, I'll just say this is equal to our revenue minus our cost. Gives me a new number here. You can see I only entered the formula here, but if I rebuild the sheet, I'll copy over this formatting. If I rebuild the sheet, you'll see that these values have all cascaded down, even though they're not natively coming from our planning analytics system. So again, this is just starting a report, getting it to a better state. So now I'm going to show a more polished version of the report we just looked at. This didn't take me very much longer than what we just looked at, maybe an extra 20 minutes just to add in the logos, get everything looking really polished. But what we were able to create is a variance report that allows users to easily choose their different versions and allow for the variance to be calculated. So for example, if we wanted to compare our plan to our actual, I can simply switch this to actual, rebuild my report, and we'll see that we have the updated values here. If I wanted to change my customers, I can go here and do that. I can also go here and change my companies. Gives me all of that various functionality, as well as changing different months, different currencies. As you can see here, I've added some conditional formatting as well as some hidden columns. So there's some hidden columns that I created that basically calculate the percent difference. And then based on these, I have conditional formatting on these cells to highlight either green or red for positive or negative variance depending on the context. So let me hide these again once more. And what you can see, this WebEx bar will get out of my way. I'm going to unfreeze the panes quickly, show the format area. And all I've done is apply the formatting to this grid and conditional formatting only to this cell, and it cascades all the way down. So I have a polished report ready to go. I'm happy with it, and I want to be able to give it out to my users to be able to access on the web, as well as with that analysis view to allow them to slice and dice along with the more polished report. So I've hidden my format area. I'm going to go to my view. I can get this to away. I'm going to put my freeze pane. And next I am going to publish this to the web. So it'll say that I need to save it as a macro-enabled file before I publish. I'll just call this one final. I'll hit save. And it'll ask me basically where in my folder structure I'd like to add it. So I have a lunch and learn test report. I have one that I already had, so I'm just going to overwrite it. You have the option to make it public or private. It's already public, so no need to check that box. It's going to ask me if I want to replace the file. Great, so that's it. I've published. Now, if I go to Planning Analytics, I believe I already had it open, but it should get logged in fairly quickly. I have a book that I've already created. I haven't published anything out here yet, but I will. So you'll see that these are two empty books. I'm going to hit edit. And I can see in my Lunch and Learn folder, I can grab that report that I created, simply drag it out here, and it has populated directly here. And now for the Analysis tab, all I want to do is grab that view that I used to build the report. I go to Revenue, or that one that we created together, rather. Excuse me, I'm going to expand views. And I'll just go ahead and grab this Shine Test view that I created. Actually, I just don't think that's the one. Yeah, Shine Test Exploration. Quit editing, save the book. Now my users can go in, they can access this report, they can change, the various filters if they would like, and they can also go ahead and export this from any level, as well as do their slicing and dicing analysis here if they would like. that was just a really quick example of some of the power of the things you can do within Planning Analytics for Excel. I have a lot of clients that they solely use the Excel tool. Some clients solely use the web tool. But really these tools are meant to be used in conjunction and to be able to share resources back and forth. So users really have the flexibility to go whether into PAX or into PAW to complete any of the various tasks or analysis that they need to complete. I know we had a few questions pop up. I think we're going to take some time to answer those at the end, but I'll be reading them to make sure I have some answers by that point. And at that point, I'll hand it back over to Brady.
All right. Thanks, Shayan. Ryan, I'm trying to share. Okay, there we go.
There we go. Just getting the presenter real fast over to you. Here we go.
All right. So before Shayan presented, we had our poll very quickly. Which Excel product are people using? It's a pretty even split. You still got some people on Perspectives, good portion of people on PAX. You know, quite a few people still using both, and of course a few people using neither. That doesn't surprise me one bit. We definitely still have a lot of clients that love and use their Perspectives tools, and but of course, right now we have the luxury of having both tools available to us. All right. So without further ado, to make up a little bit of time, we are going to move on to topic number 2. I've got Jake Robbins, who is our RPA practice lead at eCapital, and I've got Mitch Dorhout, who is a senior consultant on the Planning Analytics team. They are going to talk to us about RPA, Robotic Process Automation. And before we jump into that, we do have a poll question. What is your experience with RPA? If you're like me, you may have never heard of this prior to a few months ago. But otherwise, definitely interested in hearing what your experience is with RPA. Are we getting the poll up?
Yep, poll is open. Looks like we're getting some good responses.
All right.
Brady, I don't believe we're seeing your screen right now. Just says it's starting to share the content. I cannot see your screen.
I think it's time for you guys to, I'll let you and Jake take over here.
Sounds good. All right. Jake, do you want me to present? Or you got it?
Can you hear me? I'm just unmuting myself now.
Perfect.
Right. I'll wait. I'll give it a few minutes until the poll is done. So you see, never heard of it is a good majority of people. So that's good because we're going to give a brief overview of what the technology is. Interested, not doing testing the waters, actively using. This is actually what we see very commonly. That some people are using it in the basic format, but haven't really explored kind of the potential of it completely. So me and Mitch have been doing work with some clients recently on merging RPA with TM1, especially with helping with bursting reports, right? We understand that you're not always going to be able to publish these to the web page every time, and sometimes you have a process where you need to send out different versions of these variance reports, like Cheyenne showed earlier, to different members of your organization, right? So me and Mitch have been working side by side now, making sure that we understand everything with TM1 and RPA to make that a possibility for everyone, so that if you're interested in bursting these reports or doing some automation alongside TM1, it's very possible. I don't know, Mitch, if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, I think really the biggest thing, integrating RPA with PA. I know we can run through our slide, but we've seen a lot of requests, of some different capabilities to be able to integrate with Planning Analytics that has brought a lot of value to our customers. So I think we can run through our slide deck, and then I can kind of run through some of the use cases that we've used for some of our clients.
Yeah, and I'll do this fairly quickly so I can go into the demo and kind of showcase, hey, how does this actually work inside these PACS reports and inside TM1. So since most of you are new to the concept, right, what RPA is software which integrates into your environment and simulates employee actions, right? So it's going to pretend to be a human. It's what we call digital workers to kind of go through a process and do something you would do as a human, right? So in the case for TM1, a lot of it is this report generation idea, right? Figuring out how do I best cascade this information throughout the organization in a way that makes sense for our organization, right? However, RPA is used way more broadly than just this, right? It's used with data entry and role-based procedures, data extraction, emailing, and in reality, what I like to say is if the process can be mapped, it can be automated, right? So we actually have the technology nowadays to really automate a lot of business processes, not just report generation, right? So in the general sense, data entry, emailing, validation, formatting, RPA does that really well. Finance, RPA has been really used now in accounts receivables and accounts payable processes at the same time as in the procurement and claims management stuff. In operations, this is something I worked in Anheuser-Busch for 4 years before coming over to eCapital, and I've seen the power of RPA in operations firsthand. We had over 105 bots running. We use these bots to help with inventory control, shipment execution, shipment consolidation, and a lot of other processes that we did in-house. IT and HR are also really hot areas for RPA right now, and that's just because of the process-oriented kind of structured work that is generally found in those organizations. However, why you should be interested in RPA to begin with, right? The first thing for me, and probably most important, right, it improves the employee morale. So a lot of the times what happens is the task that RPA takes over for or automates is this low IQ kind of rote, mundane things, tedious things that no one wants to do, right? Things that aren't engaging your brain or engaging you to actually enjoy your work. So what we see is after, automating some of these processes, it really opens you up to exploring other aspects of your job. Maybe it's more customer service stuff, maybe it's focusing on innovation, and you don't have to really worry about all these manual processes that you might be doing today. All the other benefits are kind of implicit in technology, right? So it's really fast. If you can run faster than 10 times faster, 100 times faster, it really depends on the process than any human could. It's going to work every time, every day. It never takes a sick day. It never makes a mistake, and it will run through it really quickly. It's also not invasive and can work in almost any environment, and it could follow almost any IT guideline setup. There's also a low technical barrier to a lot of RPA, which is really nice. So you can enable someone internally on the skill set that you would need to really make RPA shine. And lastly, and most importantly too, it's accurate, right? It's going to kind of let you not worry about this process because you know it's going to work every time, and where you can really focus on something else. However, I'll pass it on to Mitch to explain why are we here today talking about RPA when we're talking about planning analytics.
Perfect. So, yeah, some of the cases, obviously as we've had practice the RPA at eCapital, we definitely saw an opportunity to integrate with planning analytics. So here are just some of our basic cases that we've been able to implement with some of our clients where, bursting out reports for each location organization, instead of having to go through each one and filter and then save it to a file, being able to use RPA to generate all those reports and save it to that file, right? I only have to click a button and it bursts out those reports. We also want to talk about emailing reports out to end users. You might have certain end users that don't have access to your TM1 planning analytics environment. So really what we want to be able to do is to provide them insight to how is the company performing, how is their region performing, and being able to burst these reports via PDF or an Excel. We all have, a lot of companies have SharePoint, right? We might have a designated location that we want to have our reports. So being able to upload those reports to SharePoint and not having to copy and paste them every time. I know that a big thing we've seen is financial packages, right? So we want our basic income statement, cash flow, balance sheet, and understanding, different operational metrics within our company, being able to provide those to our executives and potentially, any other companies that you might maybe have a parent company that you have to report a financial package to. And one of the real big things that we one of the biggest projects that we just undergo was loading in variance commentary from non-TM1 users into Planning Analytics. So this was a very good report where it's like, hey, we want by each location and department, let's burst this out and get everybody's feedback. And this could be 200 plus users, but after they put in that variance analysis, being able to load that back into Planning Analytics. The nice thing about doing use cases of RPA within Planning Analytics, it's a one-time setup fee. Some softwares out there, you have a reoccurring fee every year to be able to having to pay for the licensing, where this is just a one-time setup fee. So that's kind of some of the use cases within Planning Analytics, and I can turn it back on over to Jake.
Yeah, so we wanted to showcase kind of going off of the excellent report that Cheyenne just built. I wanted to show you, hey, how can RPA work with that, right? So hopefully it'll look very familiar to the report that was just made. So as you can probably see, I have the same kind of distinctions. I can switch the organization. And hopefully, there it goes. It's starting to recalc, and the stuff you just kind of show Cheyenne kind of go over. So what I did is I created a really quick automation example where it shows, hey, if I wanted to, let's say, change this organization to different members in this subset, can I do that? Save the example off in a snapshot, right, so it can be seen by almost any user. And then after that, send it out via email to a certain person so they can see that report, right? So I did that, and the way I chose the organizations is just in this list here. So I just made a really quick sheet that says, hey, I'm going to do it for the total company, for the North America, for the Eastern region, and for Massachusetts. All I have to do now is hit this burst report button and let it go. And what you'll see is when I click this, it's going to start recalculating, and it's going to start pretty much getting these reports ready so that we can send them out to different people in your organization. Now, for the sake of this example, I'm going to send them out only to myself. However, like Mitch said, we've actually been helping clients send them out to an email directory or whoever needs these reports. But the cool thing is you can do this with almost any combination of the time period, organization, currency, customer. It just depends on how you want to present this information to the business partners you work with. So once it's done, it tells me it's all done. And what you'll see now is I'll open my email. I actually got 4 different reports from myself all in the span of a minute. So it really does this very quickly. And what you'll notice now is if I open one of these reports, it's going to look very similar, but I did strip some of it away. So the buttons are no longer here because it's a static report, right? It's no longer connected to TM1. Instead, it's just the numbers from that report really allowing you to send this information on to really bring the visibility of these reports to the larger audience, right? So you don't have to have a TM1 license for every single person in the organization if they need this information. We've found this very helpful with clients already that we've worked with because it allows them to really leverage the technology in a way that isn't too cost preventative. I don't know if Mitch, if you want to add anything onto that.
No, I think you really hit it on the point that, I mean, really the whole goal of using a system like TM1 Planning Analytics is really to be able to get our information out to a lot of our end users, right? We want to be able to get the company more involved and have a better understanding of where are we performing, what are some things that, some different opportunities that we can improve for our business, providing a little bit more insight to that. So, the more eyes on it, the better. I do think, with a lot of our companies where we want to be able to get a lot more people involved. We want to get their feedback and making sure that we're going to provide the most accurate forecasts. We're going to provide the most accurate budgets. We can run our different scenario plans and all that. So, TM1 is a very powerful tool, but I think the integration with RPA just makes it that much more powerful. So after that, I can turn it back on over to Brady.
All right. Thank you, Mitch. Let me reclaim my host. I need to get the host role back here. There we go. All right. I think we're running a little bit behind schedule. We were going to have a funny poll question of said, are you interested in learning more about how you're going to use RPA in your organization? The correct answer is yes for everybody who's going to work on that poll. The incorrect answer is no. So everybody should be interested in how you can use RPA within your organization. Topic 3 now is what I'm going to present on. It's really talking about scenario planning. sandboxing and what-if scenarios. I will say that one of the things we've seen coming out of the last 6 months, where everybody's working from home, where business has changed, is that a lot of our clients are coming to us saying, hey, we need to be able to do more scenario planning. You know, our budget went right out the window in March, and we need to rebudget, we need to reforecast. And so I'm going to just show you a few things here talking about scenario planning today. Before I get into the demo, let me expand this. I put together 4 tips and tricks for better scenario planning. I'll just briefly read through these, but first one is just do more driver-based planning. So many of our clients, so many people we work with that work in TM1 are, you know, they have people entering dollar amounts, and that doesn't lend itself very well to, you know, doing, you know, multiple scenarios, because at a certain point, some people, you know, somebody has to get in there and just manually change the dollars. So the more you do driver-based planning, the more that you'll appreciate the advantages of doing scenario planning. Number 2, sandboxing. Sandboxing has been a part of the TM1 Planning Analytics product for a lot of years now, and I still find there's a lot of our clients out there, a lot of my own maybe internal team members who you know, just don't really understand what sandboxing is, what it can do. It's definitely a very powerful product. The big thing about sandboxing is it's private sandboxing. It's for an individual's personal consumption, personal use. Number 3, don't be afraid to have multiple active scenarios. You know, so many of us who have been working in the TM1 Planning Analytics world for 10 plus years, you know, we're used to having just a single forecast or a single budget version. And, you know, some of that is just, you know, that's the way we did things 10 years ago. And very honestly, you know, memory and system performance, I mean, it has come a long ways in 10 years. And it's so easy to add a little bit of memory or add a little bit of RAM or whatever you need, you know, in order to accommodate, you know, having an extra, you know, maybe it's 2 or 3 or 4 different forecast scenarios. Maybe it's more than that. All right. Number 4 is allow for unique forecast scenarios for specific business drivers. And I'm going to show an example of this one here in a minute, but the big takeaway is within our planning analytics models, a lot of times we're sharing a dimension. We're sharing a version or a scenario dimension between all of our cubes. And so a lot of times we think, oh, well, I create a forecast and I create a budget version. I have to share those between everybody. Well, you know, maybe we need to open up our minds here a little bit and think, you know, maybe I need, you know, specific forecasts for one area and a separate set of forecasts for a different area. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump into my demo on scenario planning. So for those of you who joined us last week, I'm going to be using the same model that I used last week, and that's basically using NFL jersey sales. I'll wait on this to open just very briefly. All right. So I'm going to just rehash very quickly what we went through last week. So in order to get what's our demand for NFL jerseys, you know, we brought in things like, you know, how many Facebook likes, Instagram followers, total followers do they have? So, you know, just very quickly, you know, if we had Drew Brees here, he's with the New Orleans Saints. Let's say that the Saints are going to go out and they're going to do a big marketing push, and they're going to try to get 12 million followers. What you should see here is that Drew Brees, his demand goes up for his jerseys. Quick and easy. Same thing with social media. So in this case, Tom Brady is obviously very good at social media. But let's say he does something crazy, makes a bad statement online, does something, let's say that his rating drops from 98 down to 60. What you're going to see is that Tom Brady's demand for his jerseys may go down, goes with it. Same thing we talked about stadium capacity last week. Obviously, the NFL is trying to evaluate, as are a lot of businesses, are they going to have fans in the stands this coming year? So again, as you adjust that stadium capacity, the demand for the jerseys likely goes up and down. All right, so that's kind of the background of kind of what we covered. I'm going to, as far as scenario planning goes, I'm going to start with first thing about pricing. So what I'm looking at here is just our basic forecast. Obviously, when you sell a jersey, you have a basic, what are you selling it to the customer for, and what's your cost on it. So right now, I'm sitting here looking at my forecast, and again, maybe I go up, maybe I change, we're going to increase our prices up to $90 a jersey, whatever that is here. And same thing, maybe your cost, maybe more than likely they're the same across all your different teams, but again, you have the option here. What we want to show you is that don't be afraid to create a separate scenario. So like right now, I'm looking at just my forecast. So let's come in here and say, let's do a price increase in big markets. We can name this whatever we want. And I'm just going to press create a new scenario. All right, so it created it for me. You'll see it's now in my drop-down, price increase for in big markets. I'm going to go back and just populate everything at 75, and again, put 35 in here for my COGS. But, I'm going to go through in LA. I mean, I think, there's opportunity there. We could probably sell our jerseys for a little bit more. We can increase a couple of those. New England, obviously, is going to be a big market. Maybe even Philadelphia. We can just increase some of these prices here. What you'll see is that after we increase some of those prices, obviously your demand is going to go up or down. Obviously, price does drive things. If we drop all of our prices down to $40 per jersey, you're probably going to sell more jerseys because people can afford it. But again, the takeaway here is we created a new scenario on the fly. We let our end user create this scenario. Now, this is a scenario that everybody can see. So, we definitely want to be cautious that we don't want somebody, which anybody and everybody getting out there and creating new scenarios. But it is that easy. It can really be done via the web. Somebody can push a button, create that scenario, and you can immediately start seeing the impacts of it. So going into my operating expenses is my next one. And again, I kind of built a basic set of assumptions here. So like number of stores, number of employees per hour, all these things are drivers that are going to affect our total salaries. And so just for grins, if we go through here and let's change the average hourly rate per employee up to $12, again, you're going to see some of our numbers start changing here. If we increase our number of stores up to 250, again, you're going to see our numbers change because obviously the more stores you have, the more employees you have to have. As far as sandboxing goes, the people, a lot of our clients, may not fully understand how sandboxing can work. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up, and at the top of this menu screen here, there's a sandbox button. So you can actually say, I want to create a sandbox. And I'm going to title this one called Increase Store Counts. So basically we're thinking about expanding and opening up more stores. Now what I want to do here is if I click the three little dots over here on the right, I'm going to say add my sandboxes into here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to drag my sandboxes dimension down into my rows. I'm going to turn this on to expand everything out a little bit. Let's look at everything. So we want to see our base plus our new scenario that we're working on. So what does it look like if I go up from 250 to 275 stores? Obviously, you can see it's about a $2.5 million difference in salaries. Benefits obviously change as well. Shipping costs, our thought process here maybe is if you increase the number of stores, maybe the percentage of jerseys that have to be shipped goes down. So maybe this drops down to 60% of our jerseys need to be shipped, which again is going to decrease your shipping costs here. And of course, the other thing I may play with is, if we're going to ship less, maybe our percentage that pays with the credit, or going to pay with the credit card may go down as well. So by decreasing that, our credit card fees may go down. So again, what I'm looking at here, this is a sandbox. This is my own private sandbox. This is not something that it's shared throughout. This may be private data. We may not, everybody in the company needs to know that we're thinking about increasing our number of stores. Finally, as far as sandboxing goes, if I like what I'm looking at here, so I'm looking at my increased store counts, there's a little commit button, and it's the little check mark all you got to do is press that and say, yeah, I'm happy, that's my number, and it basically copies everything from that increased store counts back into your base. The one thing you'll also notice is that my version, I still have a version dimension here, and I created one earlier called Best Case Operating Plan. That may be drastically different than our original forecast. So again, we're taking advantage of the opportunity to have different scenarios within our model. And finally, when I go into the financial summary, this is something that we've talked to a lot of our clients about recently is, again, from a pricing standpoint, we may have different scenarios that the pricing team is looking at. So in this case, if I say, hey, I want to use that one that I just created, the price increase in the big markets, and what you're going to see here is that it allows us to change that, and based on that, again, our numbers down here will change. And same thing in our operating cost version. So the one that I just was looking at, I can switch this. Instead of looking at the forecast version, I can pull in the best case operating plan. Again, you see our numbers start changing dynamically here. So again, that's kind of some of the basic concepts of scenario planning. Again, the big takeaway is that the trend that we are seeing in the market is that our clients, companies across the world are wanting to do more scenario planning. They're wanting to do more than just their base annual plan or just their base forecast. All right, so I think with that is my demo. Let's see, we do have a poll question I think we want to quickly ask. So in the last 6 months, knowing there's been a good deal of economic uncertainty, has your business changed the way you forecast? And while everybody is answering that, I'm going to try to pull up and see if we have any questions in the Q&A panel. So we had a question. So the RPA software integrates with PAW and PAX, hence the ability to have the burst button. Jake, you want to unmute yourself and answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So for most cases with TM1 bursting, you don't actually need any software. You can just do it with the inbuilt engine in Excel, which means that you really don't need any software. It really is just a one-time fee getting it ready. And once it's ready, you're ready to go.
Right. And to add to that, you can, yeah, like I said, with what Jake was talking about, you have that ability. We could execute it from PAW too. If you want to burst out those reports, we'd be able to do that as well.
All right, so it looks like our poll is finished. So we had people say, looks like 33% of the people said that we absolutely have changed the way we forecast. 7% said, no, we haven't yet, but we need to. And then 10% said, no, our business is handling the same things the same way we always have. All right. I don't think I saw any additional questions. Oh, there is a question just now pop up. Can you publish the PAX reports to TM1 Web? Mitch, you want to take that? Or Shannon?
Sure. Diane, you can take that one.
Yep, simple answer is yes. So you can publish those PAX reports just like you would perspective reports to PAW, to TM1 Web, to Contributor if you really wanted to. So yeah, that's the simple answer.
I see a question. Do you see that question there, Shannon, about the frequent formatting issues in Excel web sheets?
Yeah, so that's been greatly fixed in PAW. So when you publish things out to PAW from PAX, I see far fewer issues than what I did, I would say, maybe 2 years ago, because that was my experience with my clients as well. Is I would be creating something in PAX, it would look great, I'd push it out to the web, and it looked way different. So that's something that has greatly improved. I'd say I comfortably now publish all of my reports for my current clients in PAW without really being concerned about the formatting.
Yeah, and same thing with Team on Web. So publishing to Paul or
Yep,
Team
same
on
with
Web.
Team on Web too.
Yeah, definitely. You know, a couple of years ago, it definitely seemed like if you did conditional formatting or some other things, there was pieces that just wouldn't look the same or wouldn't work when you publish them to the web. But yeah, to agree with Shayon here, yeah, almost all of those have been resolved. I've very rarely run into any instances where something works in Excel but it doesn't work on the web. All right, are there any other questions? If not, we definitely appreciate everybody attending this. And if you have any ideas, if you want us to, we're intending to do webinars going forward, probably once a month going forward. If you have any ideas of things you want us to look at, to show, definitely send them our way. We're happy to, you know, build some content and do some demos in the future here. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.